for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Parachana Mahamudra Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya
Please take a moment to straighten your mats and cushions, and then stand facing the altar for the chanting of the three refuges. So in keeping with our tradition, if it comes to us from Korea, we will first take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in Sino-Korean, and then a second time in English. So just throw your voice in with the chant as best you can. You can think of this like practicing with the sound. I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate the heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this land into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please remain standing just for a moment. While I read our ancestor dedication, we acknowledge that this land where our temple buildings stand has been the home of native peoples, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, and the Ojibwe, the Council of the Three Fire Tribes, and also of Black Americans. We know that this neighborhood used to be a historically Black neighborhood during times of racial segregation and oppression. For our own awakening and for the awakening of all life, may the benevolent energies of our meditation, chanting, and full presence here at this service extend to all beings on this planet and throughout time and space. May there be deepening of our interbeing. May peace prevail and wars cease. Please return now for another shorter period of meditation. Just taking some time to check in with our posture. A balance between effort and ease with an upright spine. Finding the stability in our body in contact with the floor or our chair. And then just checking in with our spinal alignment. There should be a sense of alertness in the spine. We're not trying to force any position. A sense of harmonizing with gravity. Checking that our shoulders are roughly in line with our hip bones. A slight tuck to the chin. A lift through the crown of the head. Our gaze is soft and open, engaging the peripheral field. Staring down the bridge of the nose at about a 45-degree angle, wherever your eyes naturally land. Lips are closed, teeth parted, tip of the tongue at the front of the teeth, allowing the jaw to relax. Hands resting on our thighs or in the meditation mudra, left fingers cradling the right, thumbs lightly touching, connecting the left and right sides of the body. And then just going to your awareness of breathing. Feeling a little bit of that coolness at the back of the throat where the air enters your nostrils. Exhaling fully. And if you have a meditation practice, please go to your practice for the next few minutes. Please join me in some stretching. You're feeling the circulation of the breath even as we do these simple exercises. Please sit comfortably. Well, we do have some room in the front. If anyone would prefer to come forward and sit a little closer, you're welcome to. Hey, good morning.
Morning, Chakra.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. It's an interesting cusp of fall out there. The sun still feels warm, but the breeze is a little cool. I noticed this morning. And I think we have several new folks here today. Is that right? I've heard whisperings in the lobby. Who's new? Okay, welcome. Well, thanks for being here. My name is Jagwa. I'm one of the Dharma teachers here in Ann Arbor, if I haven't met you before. A few of our other clergy who would normally be here are at a special ceremony down in Toledo today, but they send their regards. So, where to begin? We have this theme that we're working with this season, essentially, of talking about how our spiritual life is formed. So our Dharma master, one of our senior teachers who's based in Mexico City, is using the term sound formation, sound like stability. And I guess the Jagwa framing of that would be becoming a Dharma person. How does that happen? So there's been a series of talks in recent weeks kind of on this topic. So I want to pick up a little bit of that with a slightly different angle. And that's the sort of what happens when your meditation practice gets kind of hard. What do we do then? So getting into some of the teachings around what the Buddha called the hindrances, and I'm going to talk about what those were. But before I do that, a couple of just kind of daily life things that come to mind, a couple of facts that you may not know about me. One is that I am a published author of such exciting articles as, what do I do when I see the error message XYZ in such and such software? Or let's see, there's another one that I wrote recently, guide to running your own proof of concept for software XYZ. So yes, you know that one, thank you. Yeah, it's on the bestseller list. So that's one thing, troubleshooting articles, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. The other fact is that I like to go weightlifting. That's one of my hobbies right now. I've been going for a couple of years to this gym in Ypsilanti. Some of the folks who were at our fall meditation retreat the last few days got to hear about some of the characters at the gym that I go to. But I find that there's a lot of really interesting attention to detail and fine-tuning in this weightlifting practice, because you have to use your body and your mind in a very specific way so that you can pick up a very heavy weight without hurting yourself. And so I like to watch the people in the gym and kind of see how they coach each other. And there's a very kind of lovely, unjudging way that they kind of give each other little tips. Like, hey man, did you notice, you weren't really opening your hips when you're standing up out of the squat, and that's why you were leaning forward a little bit. Sometimes it's as simple as one guy will be standing next to another person who's doing the back squat, and they just yell, hips, to try to remind them. Okay, use your hips. And so I think in our daily life, we often have these examples of, we kind of immediately know how to troubleshoot a situation. We're kind of able to get into this mode of just noticing, looking at the details. What do I need to tweak here? Why did I get this error message? Why couldn't I pick up this weight? Or is my form correct? That sort of thing. And so at the heart of it, I think both of these kind of examples are really about cause and effect. That is a very Buddhist concept, cause and effect. But what I've found is that sometimes when we begin our meditation practice, I'll have people say to me, oh, that's so cool that you do meditation at the Buddhist temple. I could never meditate. I think too much. And I said, well, yes, me too. That's why I go. So there's maybe this conception that meditation is something that you sort of can naturally fall into without a lot of difficulty. And if you have difficulty, you're just maybe not cut out for it. Or maybe you're just not doing something right. And so I want to challenge that notion in the talk today and talk about how our difficulties that we experience in our meditation practice or outside of that in our life are really actually the place of practice. That is one of the ways in which we become this Dharma person and deepen our spiritual lives. So let me talk a little bit about those things that the Buddha said about these kind of common difficulties that many people experience in our practice. And he gave them the name hindrances. Maybe not a common word that we would use today, but I was listening to a talk by one of my favorite Buddhist teachers, Gil Fronsdal. He's studied both in the Zen Buddhist tradition and in the Vipassana tradition and teaches out in California. You can find a lot of his talks online. And he talked about the origin of this word hindrance in its original language, which would have been Pali or something close to it. And so the Pali word is nivarana. Interestingly, sort of only a couple letters away from nirvana. And it actually can be translated as to cover over something, a covering. And so these hindrances are sort of that invitation of looking deeper. Okay, so what are these 5 hindrances? The first one is desire. So desire could be things like when I'm sitting in meditation at the retreat this weekend, and I'm thinking about the trip that I'm going to go on in a couple of weeks, and I'm thinking about, what am I going to eat on this trip? You know, I've never been to Japan before, and I've been doing all this research, and I have this long list of things that I want to eat while I'm there. And I spend at least 5 or 10 minutes when I should be paying attention, thinking about, I'm going to eat this type of thing and this type of thing, and then my mind has gone off somewhere else. So daydreams, planning, wanting after something, those are all examples of desire. The second one is ill will. So this could be an experience of I'm rehashing a scenario in my mind in which I had a conflict with someone. And I'm thinking about all the ways in which it was their fault. You know, they did this, they said that, they didn't understand my feelings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe blaming others, or a way of kind of removing ourselves from any kind of accountability with this little bit of anger or ill will. The third hindrance is a pairing of words. It's often presented as sloth and torpor. So again, not very modern words we might use. This is sort of, maybe we would say today, a feeling of malaise or laziness. You know, I just don't have time for that today. Maybe I'll do it next week. A famous story in my husband's family is that when he was a little boy of about 5, he did not want to go to school one day because he didn't really like it. And so he comes dragging himself out of his bedroom across the carpet by his hands. And he tells mom and dad, my legs don't work today. I can't go to school. So that's kind of a wonderful example of sloth. Just can't be, as the British would say, just can't be bothered. The fourth one is restlessness and worry. This is my personal favorite. Usually having to do with ruminating, thinking about all the situations that you're trying to avoid that haven't happened yet. Just in general, kind of a strategy of avoidance. And then the last hindrance is doubt. This could be self-doubt. You know, I just can't do that. I don't see myself as a person who can do that kind of thing. Again, it's sort of an avoiding of whatever kind of uncomfortable decision maybe needs to be made, kind of staying in this place of ambiguity. So I think we can all relate to some of those experiences. And I will say that they're all kind of strategies in a way. Maybe they're maladapted strategies if they don't serve us very well. But there are certainly understandable strategies as humans that we might employ. So a strategy of using desire and craving after things might be that we're avoiding discomfort. So maybe in the meditation retreat, when I was sitting there thinking about all the things that I wanted to eat on this trip in a couple of weeks, if I stopped and thought, why am I getting caught up in this? removing that first layer of the covering. What's underneath there? Well, I'm a little tired, maybe I'm not paying as much attention. Do I feel like I have the energy right now to be up so early in the morning? A little bit of sloth, a little bit of self-doubt. And then just kind of, again, letting go of that. Just asking myself the question this weekend, Jagua, are you awake? Wake up. Where are you? Coming back to the moment. Ill will maybe is a strategy of avoiding frustration, maybe wanting to avoid a sense of shame. Sloth might be a strategy of just not feeling like we can face something that's challenging for us. Restlessness and worry can be a strategy of maybe avoiding confronting something. Maybe a strategy of wanting to feel in control, with feeling some desire for stability, even if it's a situation that we don't have any control of. And then doubt can be a strategy of avoiding a decision or maybe avoiding some kind of truth that we're not ready to face. So, as I said at the beginning, really the secret of these hindrances is that just like when we begin our meditation and we think, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm a person who thinks too much. Therefore, maybe I need to get rid of that thinking. The hindrances really are then something that we're invited to see as this material to really go and look more deeply, because this is important information about how we're experiencing our lives and maybe where we're getting caught and where we have some work to do to lessen that attachment. In other words, if we can only feel free and good about something when we're engaging in one of these strategies, well, that thing isn't always within our control. So can I only feel good when I have a trip coming up and I get to fantasize about all the wonderful things I'm going to eat? Well, what happens when that's not the case? So this Buddhist practice is really about helping us be free and help others be free in any situation. And so it's not just about these conditions that we think will make us happy. So the example from the gym that I came across the other day is, so if you've ever been into like a weightlifting gym and you do deadlifting, which is like the barbell with the big plates on it, you do it on this special little kind of slightly raised platform that has these thick rubber pads. That way, if you drop the heavy weight, it doesn't crash into the floor. And I was kind of setting up and I looked down and someone in chalk, sometimes you'll like mark your reps out in chalk, right? I don't do that, but the cool people do. Someone had written at the base of the platform, right as I was getting into position, "Look here." I was like, oh, that's like, my gaze naturally fell there and I saw, "Look here." Oh yeah, that's exactly where I should be placing my eyes because then I'll be in the right position, right? So there was a coach who had written that for one of the people who was training. Look here. And that's really what this material of the hindrances is kind of telling us, the same thing. This is something that needs your attention. And in the short term, if you experience this during your meditation practice, maybe we think, well, I just need to kind of ignore that or put that away. But in a sense, learning to work with it, understand it, and kind of go more deeply of what is the root cause of that hindrance is the kind of reminder of looking here, giving this some attention so that I can understand, and only through understanding may this actually dissipate and no longer plague me. The other thing too that I think is important to say is I speak to a lot of people in the community where, as we begin this kind of project of pursuing a spiritual life, we bring to it a lot of our conditioning of, am I doing this right? And am I a bad person if I feel like this? Does everyone feel this way? There's a sense of a lot of self-judgment sometimes that can come up when we start practicing mindfulness with the difficulties in our lives. And so what I would encourage you to approach this practice with is a sense of curiosity and compassion, even a sense of neutrality. And the image that I come to when I'm thinking about what would be the way I aspire to relate to these difficulties when they come up for me in my meditation practice, when I feel that phenomenon of, I said something to my husband yesterday and now I'm going over it in my mind and I feel a little gross. Maybe I didn't say the right thing, or maybe he said something that really annoyed me and now I'm kind of in this mode of thinking about it. If that comes up, to take a step back. And if you've ever been just out in the wilderness where you're looking for animals, this is one of my favorite things to do. You have to be very attuned to just like the slight sounds and shapes and like the motion, just discerning, is that a plant? Is it an animal? What is the shape coming into view? And there's something about that witnessing that's very magical because there's no judgment. We're just like with pure attention trying to notice, what is the shape of that animal? What animal is it? And I think that's what I aspire to relate to some of these difficulties from that point of view. Being in a place of, I feel the thing happening, and then I can take a slight step back mentally and say, oh, what is it like? What is the shape of that thing? So not getting drawn into self-identifying with this thought pattern, but just kind of taking that step back. One of the teachings that Gil, that teacher that I mentioned, offered is you can sit back in your kind of imaginary easy chair and just kind of look at it. Huh, what's that like? Where am I getting stuck? I wonder what's underneath that. What is the shape of this thing? And so it kind of brings us out of that mode, both of overly self-identifying with the hindrance. I'm just a lazy person. I'm just an angry person. I can't meditate because I think too much, those kinds of things. And into that mode of a much bigger point of view that has the capacity to kind of stay with the trouble, to understand it better, because we can't actually let go of something until we better understood. Okay. So, I think at this point then, what I'd like to do is introduce you to a mindfulness technique that I have come across and has a little acronym associated with it that I'll teach you. It's 4 letters. And this is a technique that we can use to work with some of these maybe hindrances when we encounter them. So before we go into that, does everyone remember the 5 hindrances? Shall I read them again? Does anyone remember all 5? Okay. The first one is desire. Dreaming, planning, wanting after something. I once spent 2 days of a long retreat fantasizing about a latte. There's no coffee on retreats. And at the time, the Argus farm stock wasn't even here. And I literally thought, will anyone notice if I sneak out? There was the chicken wing shop used to be this tiny bakery, but it was only open like Tuesday, Thursday in the morning. And I was like, would they be open if I, it got very bad. Desire, ill will, blaming or attacking others, sloth and torpor. I just don't feel like it today. I can't do that. Maybe I'll do it next week. I don't really want to think about it. Restlessness and worry, and doubt, especially self-doubt. Okay, so those are the 5. And Oh, actually, I was wrong. The acronym has 5 letters. That's perfect. So we can remember 5 hindrances and 5 letters. So this technique I learned from the teacher Gil, and the acronym is BELLA, just like the Italian word for beautiful. BELLA. Okay. So the B stands for being with, being with, being with the sensation, the thoughts, the feelings, just accompanying it, beginning to see it like that wild animal. What is the shape of this thing? The E stands for explore, sort of that careful, quiet observation. Let me look into this a little bit more deeply. The first L stands for lesson, allowing a sense of maybe just a tiny bit of relinquishment. Maybe my mental grasp on this hindrance can be invited to release 2%. And this can often be a practice with the body of kind of noticing the physical sensation of the thing in the body, going to that place with the breath, and then letting go a little bit. Okay, so lesson. The next L is letting go, releasing the grip. And then the A stands for appreciate. Maybe you weren't expecting that one. Appreciate. Like, kind of appreciating what we have learned from this thing. I didn't know it was like that. When I spend a little time with it, then I kind of understood it better. And I have an appreciation for that teaching. My teacher, Haji Sunam, once said to me when I was going through a fairly challenging period in my life a few years ago, and I had been writing about it in my journal, and she was reading about it for weeks and weeks. And we had a conversation, and she said, "You know, I'm a cheerleader for your difficulties." I was like, "What?" Yeah, because that's how you deepen and become a stronger person and learn to actually practice through and with everything that's going on in your life. So not putting things into this is okay and I'm going to work with it. These kinds of things over here, I'm gonna just ignore and avoid. So cheerleader for our difficulties is sort of what this appreciate is about. Okay, so for the next, I don't know, few minutes, let's actually do a guided meditation practice with this Bella technique so that you can have some experience of it. And then we'll see and have some time to discuss how it went. So find a comfortable meditation posture. Again, checking in with our alignment, a sense of alertness in the spine. Just spend a few moments kind of roaming around the body and just noticing whatever is present. Any thoughts, feelings, sensations, any place that feels a little bit activated, just noticing it. And then taking note, are there any hindrances present for you today? Any coverings? Desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, or doubt? Maybe something that was on your mind during the meditation practice that we did earlier. And if there's nothing there, it's okay, just staying present with your body, whatever your thoughts arise are.
As you begin to touch into whatever one of those experiences might be, taking note of any sensations in the body and mind, any physical sensation of particular feelings. Maybe we notice a sense of tightness or a little heat, or even a sinking, depending on the difficulty of the emotion. Just identifying where you feel it. Whatever it is, you're allowed to feel just as it is. It's very natural. Now we will draw on our compassionate curiosity to ask, what is the shape of this thing? Just exploring, being with and exploring. You can use your breathing and your attentive awareness to go to that place in the mind or body where you can take a closer look at something. Just almost breathing with and through whatever thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations are arising. Maybe as we are exploring, this thing is unfolding and revealing itself with a little bit more depth. Oh, that's what it is. And as we're being with and exploring, maybe we can invite a softening around and through and with the hindrance of lessening. Maybe the intensity can be invited to lessen. And then always when we bring our awareness to something, we notice it changes almost right away. It wasn't quite the thing that we thought it was, or maybe it wasn't quite as solid. Maybe there's a way to feel a place where the root of the thing is, and releasing the grip a little bit, almost a physical sensation. Just noticing with your awareness anything that has shifted, changed shape, revealed itself in a new way. Or just sitting in quiet presence with the breath, if there is no material there. And bringing in a sense of appreciating any shifts, appreciating taking the time to be present for yourself and to understand something. Appreciating anything that you noticed that you could learn from. We're just taking the next few moments. If you wish to return to any of the steps, you don't even need to do them in order. Being with, exploring, lessening, letting go, and appreciating. Returning to anything that calls your attention for the next few moments until you hear the sound of the bell. Bring your hands palm to palm, making a bow, also of appreciation for this practice and for our application of it with honesty and vulnerability. And we have some time for any questions or comments or discussion. Curious how this technique was for people. Thumbs up. Say more.
I like the progression of the acronym. And I like that we directly practiced it because I got to see it in action. That in a way obviously makes sense when I do it. I feel like it has a very natural way of getting to the A.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for trying it out. Yeah.
I discovered that what I thought was my hindrance today was more about the first hindrance of desire, because I was thinking of things, but then the more I explored it, I found out that it was doubt. And so that was really cool that I was able to, and through that acronym, that I was able to get to the actual root of what was getting in my way.
Yeah, multiple topics. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I found that in my case, I was worried about something, and then when I took the time to think about it, I'd been thinking about it for a long time, but when I took the time to really consider it and set that time aside, then a solution came up. And one of my favorite books is Getting Things Done by David Allen. And he says in that book, it's not that we don't have time, like we always say, oh, I don't have time, But most of the time, it's not that we don't have time to do a task. It's that the doing of the task has not been defined. Like we haven't taken the little bit of time it takes to think about just what's the next step.
Is that a Buddhist book or like a
No,
business
it's
book?
some of his book could be Buddhist, but it's non-denominational.
Okay. Cool. Anyone else? Just general questions, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about stopping disorder.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that maybe one's psychological and the other one's more physical. Is that true?
That's a good question. I think I have heard that too, but I can't say that I have read anything explicitly about that I can recall recently. So I think I have also been taught that. But tell me more about your question. What makes you curious about that?
Well, I mean, if that's true, I feel like I have problems with both.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it does feel like it's the psychological laziness where I'll, kick the can down the road and be like, well, I don't really have time for my meditations. I had time for that, 15 minutes YouTube scrolling, all that stuff. And then there's the more physical stuff. I'm real good at falling asleep in a perfect sitting position. I did a little bit of it earlier today. So how do you work with that?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I didn't get into, although I did bring this book. This is an anthology of sutras the Buddha taught. So he taught at the time that there was antidotes for each of the 5 hindrances. And so I didn't have a lot of time to go into that, but I think he says something about this. Let me see. Yeah, so mindfulness of breathing, I think, is the one he talks about as the antidote for restlessness, or I think sleepiness could potentially fall into that. It's defined as restlessness in the original version. So it's interesting to note if you fall asleep in meditation a lot, whether there is some kind of thing that's being covered over that's just sort of something to look at, or whether you're just very tired. Something also to note, like if that's the only time that you sit down and take a break, it would not surprise me if you fall asleep in that position, because that can often be the case and we're so busy. It's an interesting one. So yeah, mindfulness of breathing. Is there a way to really come back with a sharp sense of bringing the mind and the body into this very moment, into the same place? So kind of the mind, when we're falling asleep, it's kind of going, right, but the body's still here. So can I, there's a really interesting technique that's described in this book called Hidden Zen that I've been reading off and on for the last couple of years. It's like body practices of Zen tradition. And the teacher, Maido Moore, says that those kind of liminal states, like right before we fall asleep, even or like going to the bathroom, are really wonderful times to practice if we can catch ourselves, because oftentimes the sort of thinkiness has dissipated but our pure attention and awareness can be called forth if we immediately recognize that we're falling asleep and go to that practice. So when I was describing in the retreat, when I was feeling a little sleepy, I tried to use the technique of in my mind saying, Jagwa, are you awake? And then, oh, there it was. And I had a few moments where I had just about to fall asleep, but then all of a sudden into my practice with this beautiful kind of just awareness. So see, when you're just about to fall asleep, catch yourself. What's your name again? Adam, are you awake? Oh, maybe there's something there. Maybe try it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
It seems to me that the self-doubt relates to instinct for survival, and it could be based on fear of failure, fear of not surviving, fear. And Tara Brock talks about it in radical acceptance. She's a Buddhist teacher, psychologist, and that compassion and self-compassion is comes out of that as a really healing way. You mentioned compassion in one of those acronyms. So I think it's a great teaching tool that you share.
Oh, yeah, thank you for your comment. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, I want to share the experience and maybe a follow-up question. So, since last 3-4 days, I was stressed. Like, I was thinking a lot about particular thing, too much thinking. And today, when you talked about the 5 hindrance and when we did the Bella technique, so I understood that I was stressed because I was desiring about something but could not get it. So I could see my desire falling like a building. You know? So during the meditation technique, I started uncovering it layer by layer. And when I reached to the root cause, or I should say the possible root cause, I laughed at myself. I laughed at the situation. I laughed at the whole scenario. So the follow-up question is that who is the one who is laughing at myself? Because if I'm stressing about something for 5 days, then how can I suddenly laugh at myself? Is it me or is it something else?
What would you say?
What would you say means?
What do you think it is? What do you think is the answer?
I think I don't know. But I'm happy that I laughed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I won't answer your question directly, but I will say that response of laughing. So we have a teaching in our tradition of suchness, and it is defined here by our founding teacher as having the qualities intimate, immediate, spontaneous, and obvious. And so we sometimes have those experiences like, where did that come from? Well, I didn't even recognize myself. I just did this thing.
Yeah.
But it was intimate, immediate, spontaneous, and obvious. So that was the sort of no separation. Yeah. Yeah. It's good to laugh at yourself. Anyone else? Yeah.
I had one thought about what Adam was saying about the word torpor is really interesting one to use. Like it's not quite hibernation, but it's a state that you go into when mammals go into when environmental resources are limited.
Yeah.
So like a mouse goes into torpor when there's no food around or it's cold, because it's a metabolic state in which you're preserving yourself. But then at the point when it comes out, it's even more challenging to like get these things. So in thinking about that, what are the things that you're not getting that are causing you to go into this state? That's kind of what I was thinking about. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot that that's sort of a scientific term, that sort of like semi-hibernation state that animals experience, right? Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because something that I was thinking about on that particular hindrance is like, I was like, okay, am I just avoiding something and do I actually need to rest? Like, are you avoiding meditating or is he just falling asleep because he needs to sleep? So like the torpor is like, I like how you phrased it. What am I not having right now that's making me be reserved and avoiding other things? Because really, I feel like that's the hindrance, is the avoidant part, not actually taking care of your needs, obviously.
Yeah. Any last comments? Yeah.
I like it last year. How do you elucidate the ill will? How do you find out about it?
Oh, like what's the antidote? Loving kindness. Yeah. And that's what the Buddha says. Loving kindness is the antidote. So there's other practices of metta meditation you might have experienced, where you sort of, through concentric circles that get wider and wider, you kind of beam this loving light for yourself, your loved ones who you have maybe no complications with, your loved ones who you do have complications with, people you have no relationship with at all, the people you see on the bus every day, people you have maybe grave difficulty with, the whole world, etc. So there's practices around that as well. About, I don't know, probably almost 20 years ago now, my husband had lost his job through difficulty with his boss. Like, he had a sort of ethical disagreement with his boss, and he quit, and he didn't have another job. And he didn't have a lot of money at that time. This was before we met. But I remember him telling me how every day he would go on a walk to this park that was near his house, and he would do metta practice for every person that he passed, and he would wish them good morning. And this was like kind of his soul therapy at that time, because he felt pretty shitty, you know? And so it's something that, yeah, I like to do it on public transportation if I have the wherewithal to remember, because it kind of changes the whole situation of like, you're now like going on a journey with these people. They're not just objects that you're passing by, you know? So yeah, you can look up a metta meditation online and find one that you like. You might try it. Okay, well, that's probably good enough for today. Thank you so much for the practice and for sharing your experiences. You're welcome to stay afterward and ask any other questions that you might have. And I think we'll have tea today as well. Magamak, would you like to give the announcements?
Sure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us in meditation and practice this morning. If you have any questions, you can ask any of us wearing the gray after the service. We'll be happy to answer your questions. We're looking a little bit scruffy today because we came off of a 5-day retreat. Jagwa, you are not the only person who has ever fantasized about getting secret coffee during the retreat. But then on the last day of the retreat, we have coffee, and everyone is so grateful. So like one question that you might have is, I've heard a little bit about these training programs like Dharma Guardian and Dharma Student and Dharma Worker, and but I don't know like how much of a time commitment that is. So we're happy to talk to you guys about that. For example, I think most people are surprised to find out that most of the people in our training programs do not live here at the temple. That's kind of an exception, that there's like a few of us who live here, but most of the students just come for one Friday evening to Saturday morning per month and commit to a program of at-home study and practice and journaling. You know, so if you have questions about that, let us know. If you're not getting our email bulletin, you can put your name on a list to receive our weekly email bulletin. And also you can pick up a copy of our schedule. We have a couple of copies over there that lists all of the activities that we have going on at the temple from now through February. I'll just highlight a few things. We are having a family service next week, so when you come, you'll see those of you that are here and a lot of kids and their parents too for the first like 20 minutes of the service. And then the kids will go into the backyard and into other rooms and do their activities. And then it'll be like normal meditation and so on. So we have that going on. That's usually the second Sunday of each month. We have another retreat coming up in there's 1-day retreats, which are November 23rd is going to be the next one. And that's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a Saturday. And those consist of periods of sitting meditation, walking meditation, vegetarian lunch, work practice. And so there will be a sign-up sheet if you're interested for that. We offer an introductory meditation class, which goes on Thursday evenings, 5 consecutive Thursday evenings. The next one begins this Thursday, and there's a sign-up sheet if you're interested in that. It goes from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Or there's an overnight beginners Zen retreat, which is all of that same information in one evening, 7 p.m. Friday through noon on Saturday. That'll be coming up December 6th through 7th. And then we offer yoga classes, which are on Tuesday evenings. That's ongoing, 6:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. in this room, yoga classes. We have some study groups. Understanding Your Mind is beginning this Saturday. And that is, there's a sign-up sheet with more details about that. Recovery Dharma is meeting today.
Recovery Dharma will meet at noon today in the historic temple, or as I like to say, the big yellow building next door in the library.
Okay.
Please make sure you take your shoes off in summer.
Good. In preparation for preparing this room for yoga classes, we ask that after the service today, we leave the mats and cushions that are touching the carpet in the middle, but the 2 rows here and the 1 row back there, if you guys could help to put those mats and cushions away. The ones on this side will get stacked neatly in the corner, and the ones on that side will go onto the platform over there. We will not have Together Action today because the people that typically run Together Action are not together with us there in Toledo. And the temple is supported by your kind donations of time and money. There's a fishbowl outside this door for monetary donations. If you'd like to volunteer your time, a good time to do that is on Saturday afternoons from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. A lot of us get together and work together in the garden, or if there's other work that needs to be done. It's a nice way to meet other members of the temple as well. And please join us for some tea after the service in the foyer.
Okay, just before we put away mats and cushions, let's end with the 4 great vows. So please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
And then we'll end with 3 formal vows in front of the altar before we put away the room.
It was good. Yeah.